Hi, I'm Travis. I was a visa officer with the United States Department of State for almost 7 years. During most of my career, I worked at U.S. consulates and embassies overseas. I've interviewed tens of thousands of visa applicants from all over the world. And after retiring from the State Department, I decided to dedicate my career as a U.S. immigration attorney to helping applicants navigate through the often confusing and sometimes scary visa application and interview processes. Today I want to talk about a common myth, a common rumor that many people seem to have heard. And that's the idea that a visa officer has already decided to approve or deny a visa application before the interview even begins. This is alarming for many reasons. First of all, it's completely false. But it's alarming for more than that, because the whole reason I was sent overseas, the whole reason anybody dedicates their lives to working as a visa officer, is because the United States determined years ago that as one way of protecting our borders, we need to interview every single person who is seeking to enter our country, with very few exceptions. And so I, like so many others, take this job very seriously. And that means that I'm doing my utmost. I did my utmost to ensure that every single human being that appeared before me at a visa interview was given a fair review of their qualifications. Not only would it be unfair to simply deny somebody before I even talked to them, it would also essentially obviate the entire reason that I was working in a foreign country. But beyond that, every visa officer is a U.S. diplomat. I was a U.S. diplomat representing the United States overseas. And from the very first day of our training, it is made very clear to every visa officer that we might be the first U.S. human being, American human being, that you have ever talked to, that you have ever encountered. And so it is actually really important that we put a positive face on our country, because this is your first impression and maybe the most lasting impression you will have, not only of United States citizens, but of the United States as a whole. So let me be very clear here. A decision is never made before an interview begins. It is not possible for an officer to make a decision before an interview begins, and it would be quite dangerous if that happened. Now, let me explain one caveat to what I've said. We've mentioned in previous videos that every time you appear in front of a U.S. visa officer for a visa interview, the officer will maintain a record of that interaction. And what they will do is they will type very specific notes justifying or explaining whatever decision they reach. Now, those notes may be very positive if they decide to approve your application, but those notes will almost certainly be negative if they are supporting a decision to deny an application. Those notes live with your digital file forever. And when you go back for your next interview, even if it may be 20 years later, one of the first things your next visa officer will do is consult the notes that were entered in your last interview. Now, if those notes are negative, that may be the first thing the officer sees or knows about your situation. And so while they're not already denying your application and they're not preparing to hand you a slip explaining their denial before they even begin, they are going through a process we commonly refer to in the United States as poisoning the well. Essentially, those negative details about your situation might be the only thing that is floating around in the visa officer's mind. Now, the officer will review lots of other details. They will look at your DS-160. They will look and see if there's maybe a record of you having ever been arrested or doing other nefarious or bad things. They might see if you've had a green card petition filed on your behalf. But those notes from a previous interview will be probably the biggest thing that stand out in their mind. And so again, they will not reach a conclusion before they start talking to you. However, they may be focused on specific concerns, and so it will be very important that you prepare strategically for that interview. Another example of the same caveat would be if you have specific complications. Remember, visa officers have access to a wealth of information about you as they begin the interview. And so, for example, if you've been arrested before, even if something happened outside of the United States, it is highly likely that the visa officer will see that, and they may even see some very specific details about that incident before they start the interview, or as they start the interview. If you have a pending green card application, that will be visible to the visa officer. That alone will generally not disqualify you from any visa, but it may be something that the officer wants to ask you about. If you have been denied with what's called an ineligibility in the past, maybe you were caught lying about something in your attempt to get a visa, that will be visible to the visa officer. And that will almost certainly be a major concern that the officer decides to address during your interview. But all of that said, the officer should give you a fair review during the interview before they reach their decision. And so, as you prepare for your interview, whether it's your second attempt, your 10th attempt, or your first attempt, remember that you should be given a fair opportunity to explain your situation, explain your plans in the United States, and introduce your plans after you go back home. Remember that it's your responsibility as the applicant to introduce these details. And if you don't introduce these details, or the visa officer just has too many unanswered questions or doubts, the law is actually working against you, and the officer may have no choice but to deny your application. And that's precisely why my partner Mandy and I have dedicated our careers after the State Department to helping applicants navigate through this process. We offer one-on-one services where we can help you prepare with your unique circumstances. We can practice likely interview questions and tell you exactly how best to navigate through the process to improve your chance of success. We also offer online courses designed to help you walk through every step of the journey, starting with the DS-160, the online application form that really spells the beginning of your journey, then leading to the interview itself, how to prepare for the interview, the documents you should bring, and even examples, videos of good and bad interviews to help you understand how to most effectively communicate with your visa officer. And then we offer complete guides for the student visa and the visitor visa that walk you through the entire end-to-end process. Everything you need to know to adequately prepare, avoid complications, and address and handle those complications that may simply have been unavoidable. If you're interested in these online courses, visit our website, www.zfvisaguides.com. You'll find all the details you need about all of the courses we offer, and you'll also see a link to download a free comprehensive roadmap for both the F1 student visa process and the B1, B2 visitor visa process. We look forward to helping you maximize your chance of success. Best of luck through the process. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram to stay updated with tons of valuable resources and the latest updates about different US visas.